no, no, I need you to be here because I need to be talking to somebody, because if I'm just like talking into this, like, I feel like I'm talking into a robot. This is gonna have a lot of rapid fire cuts. No, it's gonna be full of like rapid fire cuts, and that's how I'm gonna lure the kids in, because that's what children like to watch.
They love rapid fire cuts.
It is insane. I can't handle anything faster paced than Antiques Roadshow, which is why I enjoyed Creature from the Black Lagoon. So today I want to talk to you about horror movies, specifically horror movies about impossible love. Specifically horror movies about impossible love that are Creature from the Black Lagoon and Dellamorte Dellamore. Anyway, I'm going in with Wet n Wild Water Drop Primer in Rose. I don't know, I don't normally use a cheap primer, but my skin is like fucked today and all week. Very stressed out skin, very stressed out life, you know, which is everybody's experience right now. So maybe y'all could use some primer. I don't know. Oh, okay. How does this look? Does it look crazy? What is this? What is this? What empty promises is this the object giving me? Hydrates and locks down moisture, blurs the appearance of pores. See, primers always like have these crazy promises and then just do nothing. Much like, I don't know. Hokey joke about the government here. Yeah. No, that's fine. I'll let this dry for a minute. Oh. Wow, that is rough. Thank God I'm filming this on a GoPro. Honestly, GoPro is like the best primer. What? You have big pores, you have gnarly fucking zits, get a shitty camera that makes everything in fisheye vision. Anyway, Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. Directed by Jack Arnold, starring Riku Browning as the water creature, and Ben Chapman as the land creature. And who cares who the fuck else is in this movie besides the creatures. Yeah, they had Riku Browning do the underwater scenes because he was a swimmer, and they had Ben Chapman do the land scenes because he was a stuntman and a giant. Yeah, pretty cool. Jack Arnold, director of tarantula, and it came from outer space, and a bunch of other iconic 1950s sci-fi movies. You know, if you're thinking of a bunch of like gray men with like really high-waisted pants and like really flat butts, like sitting in a room talking about aliens, you're probably thinking of a Jack Reynolds movie, iconic 1950s sci-fi director. With a wonderful score by Henry Mancini and Hans J. Salter and like one other guy. What is his name? Herman Stein, whom I had never heard of before. I don't really know. Mancini, obviously, iconic director. Hans J. Salter, a little bit less well known than Mancini, but still, you know, iconic horror composer. The score for this movie is probably, honestly, my favorite thing about it, because it's like, you should probably be putting makeup on, huh? Because it's like, it's so just like bombastic. Like every time you see the creature, there's this huge like wow wow, and it's like it's so good. It's just like, yeah, this like danger klaxon every single time the creature comes on screen. Like it's like I know my levels are all over the place and this is super annoying, but I'm just gonna have to tell you like wow wow, like fuck dude, it's so cool. And I believe that Mancini recycled the score. I don't know this for a fact, I'm kind of talking out of school here, but I noticed it is very similar to the score for Tarantula. Like, I love Mancini so much. He's like literally probably my favorite American composer outside of Franz Waxman, who also was a film composer, obviously, but he's just, I love Mancini. Like, he's so, I just love composers that can be, or anybody, any kind of artist really, that can work so, in a such like diverse, effective manner within a really like commercial mode. Like, if you listen to the score that Mancini did for Creature from the Black Lagoon, you know, and like juxtapose that with shit that he did for like the Pink Panther, or, you know, A Touch of Evil, or just like his later movie, it's just like amazing. It's amazing that all of these came from the same person, but yet they are also recognizably Mancini scores. Like, he's so, it's weird, he's like so commercial but such a like artiste at the same time. Like, he just like puts his stamp on everything and you're like, oh, this is the perfect sort of like AI generated score almost for this movie, but also it's like so recognizably Mancini. Like, it's like really wonderful. Also, in case you care, I'm using Glossier Perfecting Skin Tint. This is like, so I'm like a very, I'm an earth girl, I'm a crunchy chick, okay, obviously, as you can tell. I just love a really just like watery foundation, and I'm not even like I sound sarcastic when I say that, but I'm not actually sarcastic. Like, I do like just love a watery foundation that looks like half a step better than just like my normal ass skin, because it's like, you know, I live in Minneapolis, dude. Like, I am such a fucking salt of the earth, upper Midwesterner. I cannot walk around looking like fucking Huda. Like, I will look like I just escaped from a mental institution and like just drew like crayon all over my face. Like, I don't, like, I can't, like, does not work for me. So I use Glossier. I'm even using more than I probably would normally, because I'm nervously slapping product on myself as you watch me. So thank you voyeurs at home. Yeah, anyway, gotta get, it's important, you know, I don't even, the acne is kind of whatever, the red spots are kind of whatever, dark circles are kind of whatever. Like, my main point in putting on like skin makeup, honestly, I have such a mustache. I have such a damn mustache. It's like nuts. And like Zach is smiling at me because he doesn't think I have that much of a mustache, but I shave my stupid mustache literally every single day, and I walk around with a 5 o'clock shadow, like, constantly. Truly, like, so that's the main reason. So hopefully my mustache is mitigated right now. Let me take a look. Also, I was out in the sun today and I didn't put on any sunscreen, which is kind of dumb. You know, it's early October when I'm filming this, and it's like weirdly hot and sunny outside here. I don't know, climate change, forest management, I don't know, but. And we got the Glossier Stretch Concealer. I like this concealer. I don't like the name because I always like, I don't know, the word stretch concealer, like, I don't know, something about the juxtaposition of those words makes me feel like I'm like putting on concealer to cover up stretch marks on my face. Like, yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, that works just fine. Great job. This will be my, does it though? So, this scientist in South America discovers a fossil that is an entire, like, webbed hand, and he and a team of scientists go to, like, this secret lagoon, untouched by mankind, womankind, any kind of humankind, I guess, to try to find more fossils. But instead, what they find is this sort of like humanoid amphibious fish-man hybrid, which they refer to as the Gill-man. Yeah. The iconic sort of like image that I feel like people take away from this movie, especially if they haven't seen it, is the main character, or female lead, Kay, being menaced while wearing this this like voluptuous woman being menaced while wearing this one-piece white bathing suit, but that's only like a pretty small part of the movie. If you, personally, my main takeaway from this movie was not voluptuous women in one-piece bathing suits, but rather basically naked, beefy 1950s men. Like beefy 1950s men in like tiny, high-waisted, like short shorts. Like the whole, no man under the age of 35 is wearing a shirt through this whole movie. It's like insane. Like, yeah, just these big beefy men sort of like arguing with each other in an exotic backdrop on a boat. I love boats. And I love big beefy men arguing with each other in exotic locales. It's very nice. So yeah, I feel like that. I don't know what the fuck they were like feeding. Like, what did 1950s guys like eat? And I'm just gonna put a little additional concealer on my unibrow here for that, you know, snatched Instagram look. Okay, good enough, damn it. So I think a lot of the credit here for the reason that Creature from the Black Lagoon just feels so special, like it's not another monster movie, is in large part the costume. The costume is like really amazing. In the underwater scenes, it straight up looks like haute couture. Like it's like beautiful. Like you could like see you feel like this costume could like be on a contemporary runway in 2020. Like it's just like, yeah, it looks amazing, which a lot of the monster costumes from these types of movies have a sort of like Halloween costume in a bag vibe, which is obviously kind of unfortunate. That's, you know, part of the reason why people love to sort of like mock 1950s sci-fi movies, but also people are boring, so. And I am priming my lips with e.l.f, just generic e.l.f primer. Speaking of legs, so yeah, I don't want to just gush about how much I love Riku Browning, the man that plays the creature in the underwater scenes, but he's great. He's beautiful. Like you can like see how well, because he was a swimmer, obviously a professional swimmer, and you can like see his physique like through the costume. Like it's like, and I'm not just being like creepy and horny. Like it's like real. Like Mystery Science Theater 3000 did a riff of Revenge of the Creature, the sequel to Creature from the Black Lagoon, which doesn't appear to be on YouTube in its entirety, which is kind of too bad. I guess Universal maybe like snatched the rights back for that or something. I don't really know what's up with that, but yeah, they even like make comments in that about how like nice he looks, and it's like, yeah, dude, even fucking MST3K can like recognize game when they see it. All right, but yeah, Riku Browning, super cool. Directed a bunch of like stuff for the show Flipper, about the friendly dolphin or whatever. Like, is it 60s, late 50s? What is Flipper? I'm not a Flipper stan. I don't like know anything about it. But yeah, he directed like a bunch of episodes of Flipper, a bunch of like underwater scenes in like action movies. He directed this, oddly, like he only directed one exploitation flick. I've never seen it, but I guess it's about a vindictive amputee on like a revenge killing spree, and it's called Mr. No Legs. I haven't seen it because I'm not really like an action person, but it sounds amazing. Yeah, and Riku Browning, you know, he is one of two celebrity autographs that I own. I have an autographed 8x10 glossy of the Creature from the Black Lagoon because I'm a freak. So yeah, he's great. Oh, and he's like, he is such a good actor. Like, okay, maybe I just think this because like I'm biased and I like love him obviously, but like he emotes so well through the costume, like underwater. Like it's like almost kind of uncanny, like how much feeling and character he like injects into the creature. You know, even in the first scene where he meets Kay, the lady scientist or whatever, and he is sort of like spying on her from behind this like patch of seaweed or whatever, and he, you know, swims up to her and she doesn't know he's there, and he goes to sort of like touch her foot, but he does this wonderful sort of like thing, like he like almost touches her and then like draws back, and almost touches her and then draws back, and then has this wonderful scene with her where she's swimming on the surface of the water above him, and it's like filmed from underneath, and he is swimming in tandem with her, sort of like parallel, like facing her under the water, just sort of like looking up at her, and it's like, it's gorgeous. Like if the Henry Mancini danger klaxon like wasn't sounding during that scene, like it would be like totally romantic. It's like beautiful. So yeah, love, impossible love. Like at one point she's like, you know, on a boat going down the Amazon with these like beefy, naked 1950s men, and she's like looking out and she's like, and I thought the Mississippi was something, and it's just like, aren't you supposed to be a scientist? Like what the fuck? Like, okay, anyway, Tyler Looping the movies has really cool recap of, I think it's the first two Creature from the Black Lagoon movies, and he has this very like funny impression of her. It's like, oh, Devonian period, and but it is like, so I don't want to like cramp his style or like rip him off, but it is very like, oh, Devonian period, like it's just a very pointy 1950s lady like talking about the Devonian period. What is it? No, I passed the sophomore year science class. Okay, I know what the fucking Devonian period is. Don't even talk to me. Anyway, so I'm primed and ready to go in with this anonymous eyeliner. I don't know what brand this is. I don't know when I got it. I don't know where it came from. It just kind of materialized in my makeup collection at some point. I feel like that's literally like half my makeup though, or just like stuff I probably shouldn't put on my face. I mean, whatever, I'm punk, I don't care. But yeah, this like weird brand free green eyeshadow I bought in Santee Alley. Like, is it gonna make me go blind? I don't know, probably. Anyway, but yeah, we're going in with this eyeshadow on my lips, because you know what? I'm an iconoclast, okay? So anyway, can we talk about my favorite part of the movie? Please. I am so obsessed with this. I completely like forgot that this like happened in the movie, but at one point, like it's so 1950s, so like these scientists and like a riverboat captain or something like go to the Black Lagoon, which is a point in the Amazon that has been like sort of like sealed off from the rest of the river, like never untouched by human hands. Okay, just this like paradise sort of relic of the Devonian period. And like so they go in there. And first, their plan is to catch the Gill-man by putting a bunch of like date rape drug in the water. I'm not even being funny. It's like something that will paralyze the Gill-man. Okay, like what is this drug? That doesn't work. It just paralyzes and like I'm assuming kills a bunch of fish. Like in the scene, there's a bunch of fish just floating at the top of the water. It's pretty sad. So these scientists just show up to the Black Lagoon and like wreak a trail of destruction in their wake. And at one point, Kay throws a cigarette butt into the water. Okay, you know what? I was thinking today, on my walk in my crummy South Minneapolis neighborhood, which is overflowing with garbage at all times anyway, I was like, what if I just set this can of water down on the sidewalk and just walked away instead of carrying it for the next 40 minutes? And like, I was shocked at myself. Like, I am a product of Russ Feingold's Wisconsin, after which I moved to one of the most liberal cities in America. I'm like incapable of littering, so like, and so on the same day, like to just see Kay like throwing a cigarette butt into the pristine waters of the fucking Black Lagoon, I was like, damn dude, Kay is like based. Like, this is so extreme. Like, Kay, like, I don't know, man. Like, what is this? Like, is Kay in QAnon? Like, what? Like, who throws a cigarette butt into the water? Can I say QAnon? Will I get demonetized? Just kidding. Demonetized. But yeah, the underwater scenes in this are just really beautiful. Like, very like technologically advanced. They look, yeah, it looks so much better than like what you think of when you think 1950s monster There's this like, also very kind of like pro-social theme in this. Oh, this is Jeffree Star Velour Liquid Lipstick in I can't like see this. I think it's called like I Want My Money or something. No, I'm just kidding. It's something like I Want My Money though, like really. Oh no, I think it's Can't Relate. I'm pretty sure it's Can't Relate. I Want My Money. No, that's not the name of it. Honestly, it sounds, I don't know. It sounds like it could be.
I want my money.
I want my money. Yeah, it does kind of sound like a Jeffree Star song. And now we are going in with Kiss Professional, in Sorrento. Okay, and we are going to run this whole thing. Okay, I think I feel okay about these lips. And then just to give it a little bit of oomph, we're gonna go in with Slime Gloss. No, honestly, so I feel like the sort of like the 2020 mind, when confronted by Creature from the Black Lagoon, like really wants to like make a bunch of sort of like trite observations on the gender politics. Like I feel like, as with any sort of like relic from the distant past of the 1950s, it is like, oh, like the female character is really, you know, childish and naive and kind of stupid. Like, oh, like the female character just exists to get abducted and raped by the Gill-man, whatever. Like, oh, the Gill-man represents the 1950s repressed, you know, American id or something. Oh, they, you know, this is a movie that celebrates man's dominion over nature. You know what? All of that shit, probably true. I don't fucking care. It's a great movie. It's fun, it's sexy, it's got a lot of like 50s beefcake, it's got like, you know, unrequited impossible love, which obviously, like, in choosing this as the first theme of my limited edition prestige YouTube series, you can tell is a very close subject to my heart. Yeah. So yeah, I guess if you're gonna come to Creature from the Black Lagoon with like super 2020 like Jezebel brain, maybe don't hit it up, but if you're like, you know, chill, if you're chill with misogyny, no. If you are, I don't know, I think that the gender politics of this movie are a lot sort of like more interesting than a sort of like flat reading of like 1950s masculinity bad would have you buy into. I guess like the doctor on the expedition, that does sort of represent that, you know, manifest destiny style, nature exists to be conquered sort of mindset. He does not get portrayed in a flattering light, and you're not really supposed to think this is a nice guy. Like, the male lead, the hero of the story, is the one who doesn't want to kill the creature from the Black Lagoon, who says, you know, this creature is useful to us alive and in its natural habitat. The one who's sort of like interested in science. It's almost sort of like a scientific, pro-social mindset over a scientific, pro-social, modern 20th century 1950s mindset versus a, you know, sort of like Victorian, like conquer and kill for the sake of conquering and killing type mindset. Like, it's actually, if you like scratch the surface of like, you know, busty women in white bathing suits being carried by monsters, like this actually does feel like a really progressive movie. So I feel like every horror narrative to some extent is about humankind's, I should say every modern horror narrative, it's about humankind's inability, the modern mind's inability to function in the face of supernatural events that do not match up with that science-based mindset, that do not have a basis in science, that are this sort of like demonic reality type thing, where it's like it doesn't make sense and it's not supposed to and it's not going to, and how do you deal with it? I don't really think it's an accident. Not that I think that, you know, horror takes the place of religion or anything like that, but I do think it satisfies this sort of like craving that every human being has in their mind to, you know, be confronted by mystery. Like, you know, in olden days when, you know, every American was Christian. I know that's not true, don't drag me. But you know, like in olden times when like Christianity was this sort of like established national doctrine of America, you know, we had that in the mystery of Christ's death and resurrection, his simultaneous, you know, divinity and humanity, right? It's like, well, what do we have to replace that now? I think the most iconic and like the first narrative that sort of like explored this was Dracula, which I could talk about, I guess, in a episode about Impossible Love, but I'm not going to, because who the fuck wants to hear more about Dracula? But yeah, it's like Dracula has that, where it's like these very science-minded people in the medical community confronted with the totally unknowable, like not making sense, you know, specter of Dracula. Dracula exists outside of science, he exists outside of the modern mind. It's really interesting in the case of the creature from the Black Lagoon, obviously another, you know, iconic universal monster as Dracula was, that he sort of, it's like you need the man in the boat with the most scientific mindset is the one that is most capable of comprehending the creature from the Black Lagoon. It's sort of like using science to, you know, it's not the concept of this supernatural being existing outside of the purview of the modern mind. It's, we need science to comprehend this creature that exists, you know, in the realm, like we would interpret as being in the realm of the supernatural if we didn't have science. But yeah, I love their 1950s attitudes. I love that Kay, you know, throws a fucking cigarette butt into this pristine lagoon. Like, I think that's wonderful. I think that's very refreshing. I'm not gonna do the Jezebel blame and shame on these 1950s people with their marriage and their women being carried off and their smoking and whatever. I think this is a wonderful movie. I love boats.
I have never seen anything so exciting.
Neither have I. This is my dream.
Oh, I couldn't ask for anything more.
Me neither.
You know, you've got a real nice ossuary.
Thanks.
You will allow me to return, won't you?
You would allow me to kiss you just once, won't you?
No. Not like this. Like this.
Dellamorte Dellamore, Americanized title, Cemetery Man, directed by Michele Soave, starring Rupert Everett. In his role, I feel like right before he really hit the mainstream as far as the US is concerned. Like, this was '94, the movie he did after this was Dunstan Checks In. Like, what? It's so odd that you would go in your career from Dellamorte Dellamore to Dunstan Checks In, but no shade at all. Remotely, I think it's great. I love orangutans. I don't know if I have a revolutionary Dellamorte Dellamore take, but I will say this movie has a very like deep Cancerian energy to it. Michele Soave is a Cancer. As is Gianni Romoli, who did the script for the movie. The second male lead, I guess you would say, is a Cancer Gemini cusp. This is a very Cancerian movie. Super like insular and moody and like sexy, but also real creepy. I'm a Cancer, if you can't tell. I'm sort of obsessed with everything Cancerian. But yeah, this movie, to put it in astrological terms, has a highly Cancerian energy, which I'm very, very into. So, Dellamorte Dellamore, Rupert Everett plays a cemetery keeper, a cemetery man, if you will, whose name is Francesco Dellamorte, Francis of Death. Yeah. And he is assisted by Nagi. Nagi can't talk. He can only sort of make like guttural sounds and say his name, kind of like a Pokemon. The female lead romantic interest doesn't get a name. She's just referred to as she, which I find charming, but some audiences might find offensive. Dellamorte Dellamore is definitely a movie about this sort of like infernal, witchy feminine. Like the first time she arrives in the movie, she is this sort of like horny widow, and then she becomes a zombie and then has to be killed by Francesco. Then she comes back as this sort of like frigid career woman that is terrified of sex, and then she leaves, and then she comes back as this sort of like college girl prostitute who Francesco then murders. It's just, but the whole thing is like very like mysterious and like witchy. So I've got Conspiracy, the palette. I don't know. It's hard to be like, it's hard to get into makeup YouTubing because I feel like you're expected to like own so much shit. Like makeup is so expensive and like, it's like I don't really own a lot of stuff. So like it's weird to like buy, you know, 50 different eyeshadow palettes when I'm really only gonna use Conspiracy. Anyway, okay, to start off my look for my eyes, I'm going to go in with the titular eyeshadow Conspiracy. Okay, so like, jumble of thoughts about Dellamorte Dellamore, because it's just whatever. It's such a movie. So one of the coolest things about, or one of my favorite things about Dellamorte Dellamore is the fact that there's a lot of fucking in it. Okay, there's like a ton, and like this seems stupid and sort of like, I don't know. It seems like boneheaded and like very kind of sort of like low brow or like middle brow to be like, oh, I like this movie because the sex scenes are so hot. But like I was thinking about Dellamorte Dellamore in the context of like over the past year or like couple of years. Okay. Hereditary, Midsummer, Mandy, Ghost Stories, Ghost Story, Haunt, Do Not Play, One Cut of the Dead, Us. None of these movies have any fucking in them at all whatsoever. Literally the only horror movie I have seen in theaters in the last like literally fucking 3 years with any sex in it has been Midsummer, and that was completely played for laughs. Completely. The dude had like a fucking prosthetic dong, and like it was not supposed to be like titillating or attractive or like start any kind of feeling in you other than like humor and like a soft revulsion. And it's like, dude, why don't movies have fucking in them? Like literally, like I'm a Lifetime devotee. I love Lifetime movies, and it's like we have reached a point in our society where made-for-TV Lifetime movies have more fucking in them than like real movies. I don't know if it's like a hashtag #MeToo thing where we don't want to risk a situation in which an actress or actor, I guess, may feel compromised, or it's a thing where we're trying to like appeal to China, or like what the fuck is going on. But it's like no movie has fucking in it anymore. And it's something that like I didn't even really like realize or think about until recently rewatching Dellamorte Dellamore and being like, oh, this is what a movie is like when it like has sex in it. Like, wow. Dude, wait, what is this scar from? This is aging. This is, you look at your face and you're like, where did I get the scar? And it's like, oh, it's a fucking wrinkle. Oh, oops. Anyway, now I'm going in with same palette, Conspiracy, Illuminati. The lid here. And I'm told this is eye safe, so let's see if I'll go blind. Okay, green is on, all green is on. I feel like, I don't know, it's normally more of a gradient thing. I feel like for whatever reason, it's just like a green blob right now, but at least I can still talk about the movie and wrap my hair, so I guess that's what I'll do. It's sort of like if Peter Greenaway directed a horror movie. Like I feel like in the late 80s through kind of like the mid 90s, there was this surge of compositionally challenging yet like cohesive and mainstream movies that were mostly distributed in the United States by like Miramax. Like it definitely reminds me of like The Cook, the Thief sort of style movie. Like those, it's like, you know, like your mom would take you to see like Being John Malkovich when you were like 12 or something. Like it's like that. There was this sort of golden era when art cinema even like reached the fucking like up the corners of the upper Midwest. Like, you know, Terry Gilliam was like had a presence in Peoria or something. It's like that's what this feels like. This was not distributed by any kind of major distributor. I guess this was distributed by a company called October Films, who also distributed Guillermo del Toro's Kronos the year prior, and Silence of the Hams, another iconic avant-garde horror movie. But from the second you sort of like enter the world of Dellamorte Dellamore, you realize that you're kind of like sucked into this like completely insular microcosm of a movie. It's cloying, it's claustrophobic, as it's meant to be. I mean, it like takes place in a fucking snow globe, you know? Recently rewatching it, it's this sort of like dizzying collection of repeated images that is almost kind of like, I mean, not to go too deep or like too pretentious here, but it almost kind of like reminds me of Peter Kubelka or something. Like it's like there were like, because it's got these sequences that are like, okay, super mainstream, super commercial, ultimately pretty boring movies use, you know, the same visual motif repeatedly, constantly, like commercials do it. That's not anything new or like exciting, but it's like Dellamorte Dellamore will do it to the point where it's like so rapid fire, you just feel like you're going down this sort of like spiral. It's literally like you're being flushed down the toilet of e.l.f.'s mind. Like it's just this, you're, yeah, bombarded with like image after image after image that like echoes each other, and you are, it doesn't, like, to the point where it becomes completely disorienting. You need the hugest hair with no product in it, just fucking tangles. Dellamorte Dellamore, like, not as famous, obviously, as a lot of other kind of like cult horror films from this era, and it's kind of like, you know, today I was thinking about it, trying to figure out why that is, and honestly, I think it's because is the fact that it's got this sort of like lowercase Catholic, like lowercase c Catholic universality to it. Like it's, you know, is it a zombie movie? Is it a movie about, you know, impossible love? Is it a mass shooter movie? Like at the end, you know, the main character goes on this sort of like Howard Unruh style, like killing spree of everybody who's pissed him off. Okay, show my teeth. Okay, teeth looking good. Teeth looking not green. You know, so, and there's this like weird sort of also like almost kind of like police procedural aspect to it, which reminds me of Investigation of the Citizen Above Suspicion, which I'm sure that e.l.f, you know, I mean, every Italian was like influenced by that movie, right? So there are so many completely disparate and separate influences on this movie. And on the one level, it makes it super engaging and refreshing to watch. Like, every watch is different. Every watch you're noticing something new with this movie, which is like, I have seen this movie a lot of times. And yeah, it is one of those movies where it's like, every watch reveals something new. Like, you could watch this movie 100 times and notice something new every single time. But at the same time, that's also, I feel like the sort of reason why this movie is a lot less well known than Italian zombie movies or genre movies or crime movies or whatever of the same period, because it's like, who is the audience for this movie? Like, okay, so in order to really love and appreciate this movie, you have to be the kind of person that will appreciate the compositional structure and sort of like challenging aesthetic and like visual nature of this movie. But you also have to be the kind of person that will appreciate fucking rippin' metal as fuck shit, like zombies busting out of graves on motorcycles into the sky and then like shaded against like the moon. So it's like, I mean, yes, dude, a zombie busts out of a fucking grave, okay, on a motorcycle. He's on a motorcycle and he has straight up like fucking like horns or something like glued to his helmet. It's some straight up like fucking like Hell's Angels shit, okay? And it is so metal, and it is so badass, and it is like fucking ripping. But again, it's like, who's into that? Who also, you know, really loves Peter Greenaway? Like, who is really into like the fucking art movies and just won't get bored by like, you know, Rupert Everett stalking around, pouting, and, you know, all these like super moody shots of like, you know, Anna Fulci. Like, yeah, so yeah, it's the thing, it's like, who is this movie for? Like, honestly, I feel like Michele Soavi is such an iconoclast. It's for Michele Soavi. And like, that's great. Like, personally, I love that. As somebody who, you know, has worked in various artistic avenues for my entire life and like gotten literally no recognition for it, which is like fine. Like, I'm not even like complaining. But you know, it's like again, to use my favorite word, Michele Soavi is like this fucking like iconoclast. Like, he doesn't care. And Nagi, the assistant, Francois Hadji-Lazaro, he has literally one real line of dialogue in the whole movie. But he is so expressive. He's like a fucking like old school vaudeville actor or something. Like, he's so good. Like, he is the most expressive eater I've ever seen. If that makes any, like, this man literally like when this man shovels spaghetti into his fucking maw, it's like beautiful. The way that fucking Nagi shovels pasta into his big mouth is just like, I don't know, I feel like I'm watching like The Seventh Seal or something. It's literally like my horror movie Citizen Kane moment, okay? Is when Nagi is like shoveling pasta into his fucking mouth and like just emoting. Like, it's beautiful. I'm literally gonna cry. I feel like it was a time and a place when people didn't really worry about being pretentious on the level that they do now. Because it's like every opportunity that the movie has to like institute some level of artifice, they take it. Like the part, you know, there's this part where, you know, when Francesco Dellamorte and she have their first kiss, they do it in this ossuary, and like before they kiss, she's veiled because she's a widow, and before they kiss, she throws a red scarf over, completely like obfuscating his face, and they kiss, and it's just like so powerful, where it's like obviously massively avant-garde and like very transgressive and challenging, but at the same time it's just like, it's so watchable. I love that sort of like combination of, you know, an avant-garde sensibility with a kind of like New Line Pictures like reality. Proto-neoliberal zombie accelerationism, where he being the main character, like, it's like throughout the movie the sort of like zombie epidemic keeps like ramping up and ramping up and ramping up, and he's expected to just kill like more and more and more zombies, and he like, you know, complains to the mayor and sort of like tries to seek a raise or whatever, but ultimately I feel like so much of his actions are just like determined by the fact that he's just like insanely overworked and tired. And it just feels so like, you know, relatable. Also, he like doesn't really have any sort of like hobbies or life or even really a past outside of his job, and it feels very, you know, the 2020 economy, where you're just like always hustling and you're only allowed to be, you know, you're only allowed to be the person who you are at work. Like it feels very sort of like prescient, I guess. Like I don't know, man. Yearning, like predicting the fucking future. Avant-garde energy, but you know, narratively cohesive movie. Dellamorte Dellamore is your movie. And also if you're looking for that, they're drag racing outside, I'm sorry. But if you're looking for that kind of movie, like I'm looking for you. Hit me up. Hit me up if you like this movie. You know, like I want like Dellamorte Dellamore themed like perfume and like pinball. Like I want like a fucking Dellamorte Dellamore like universe. I mean, I guess if you wanted to, you could interpret this movie as being pretty misogynist or whatever. Honestly, I feel like Dellamorte Dellamore is one of those movies that like male feminists get really upset about, but like women love, if that makes any sense. It's definitely a chick flick, like let's be real. Francesco Dellamorte like does, you know, murder the female lead multiple times, I guess. But I don't know, man. Does that offend you? Do you remember in 2019 when everybody was real concerned about the Joker movie, which didn't have any like real, I mean, I haven't seen it, I don't know, but it like didn't really have any legitimate violence against women in it. It's like this movie is the movie that people were like envisioning when they envisioned Joker 2019, kind of. So maybe that's why nobody really knows about it. I don't know. You tell me. Oh god. You know, I like this, but I wish it was bandit. I should have brought my bandit. Just like inject like 60-year-old perfume directly into my eyeball, please. Impossible love. Okay, well,
Okay.
I feel, okay, well the makeup look kind of ended up bad. I'm sorry, I'm just like a green amorphous like blob. I'm trying. It's hard, you know what? I have like a big face and like big hands, and it's like hard to like do meticulous work, okay? I'm trying my best, okay?
Maybe that's how it should end.